The American Association of Professional Baseball, home of the Fargo-Moorhead Redhawks, has seen some fairly substantial growth over the past couple of seasons, and that includes the number of teams in the league itself. But as we learned this afternoon from the league's commissioner, they aren't done yet. The American Association is looking to expand and wants to do it quickly. Commissioner Joshua Schaub told us on Valley News Now that not only are they looking to expand, but they've already been in talks with some cities about getting these developments going that will house the ballparks for these new teams. Schaub told us that these talks have escalated recently as more and more smaller cities look to build full developments to house ballparks, much like the ballpark commons for the Milwaukee Milkmen. The commissioner has ambitious plans that won't just add some teams, but will double the size of the league by 2028.
And right now we have $3 billion worth of development in planning. We hope to be in ground at least on 2 projects by this winter and 4 within the next 24 months. And so we'll be at hopefully 16 by 2026. And we look for incremental growth likely up to 24 by 2028-29.
Here's a look at where our current American Association teams stand as the FM Redhawks have the day off. The Hawks still holding on to first place in the West after their series against Sioux Falls. They have more wins than any other team in the league. One of the highlights of the summer kicked off this morning as part of Roger Maris All-Star Week. The first clinic was held this morning for youth football players in the area. A big presence from the Bison football team to help these young athletes, including legendary quarterback Easton Stick and new head coach Tim Polasek. We talked to Polasek about what it means to be able to help a cause like the Roger Maris Foundation.
To be asked to come back and speak on the behalf of the family, on the behalf of Sanford Health, who's been such a great supporter. All of it is really important to keep moving all assets of Fargo-Moorhead area and the community forward. And this is just another big step forward in what's a wonderful community.
Here's a look at some of the other youth clinics the foundation will be hosting this week, including Easton Stick's second annual quarterback camp later this week. Russ, what do we have to look for?
Just a quick plug for the VNL weather wrap. Storms overnight tonight could be severe. You want to make sure you have that.
This is the weather night.
Yes.
Thanks, Russ. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.